Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Modern Customer Podcast. I'm your host, Blake Morgan. Today, my guest is Michael Nguyen. He leads customer intelligence at Enterpret, where he helps companies scale the way they understand and act on their customers. Before joining Enterpret, Michael spent a decade building voice of the customer programs at Figma and Asana. At Asana, he turned what began as a side project into a company-wide ritual that directly shaped the product roadmap. At Figma, he built the insights infrastructure that made customer feedback accessible to every team in real time, helping the company scale from startup to serving 95% of the Fortune 500 while staying deeply connected to its customers. Today, we are talking about the world beyond surveys. We're talking about the rise of customer intelligence and how customer experience leaders have long relied on surveys and dashboards, but today's customer-obsessed companies are moving to a new model, unifying every customer signal into real-time intelligence. Please enjoy Michael Nguyen. Michael, welcome to the Modern Customer Podcast. You're in Seattle today, but I hope it's a beautiful day and it's not quite rainy season.
It was like the first day of rain.
Oh, it's the
And
first day of rain.
if you've been to Seattle, you know it like 3X traffic, and it's just it's the beginning of the fall
But
season.
it's so
So
pretty
yeah,
there. So as a result, you
yeah,
get the most lush green, tropical looking foliage.
yeah, and fresh air. It's a privilege to live in the Pacific Northwest
Fresh
for
air,
sure.
good coffee, so much. We could talk about all the great things in the Pacific Northwest forever. But it's so nice to meet you, Michael. Tell us a little bit about your elevator pitch of your career journey, which we're going to dig into a little bit in a minute.
I feel like I've been kind of a customer centric, customer obsessed lifetime learner for the last 20 years or so. In the last 10 years, I've been really focused on building out voice of customer programs as a way to help shape companies to become more customer centric. And I just believe that customer centric companies build the best products, they create the best customer and employee experiences. And really it's a question of like how long can you sustain and do that at scale to have lasting high impact in the world and in the business. So it's been kind of a weird niche for me to wear this voice of customer hat at previously at Asana and then more recently at Figma. But it's been such an honor to like be at these high growth startups and seeing them go public and seeing that scale happen from the front rows. And then now I'm at a company called Interpret, and we are building a customer intelligence platform that helps organizations kind of think about that level of scale. And with the advent of AI, it's been really interesting to see kind of what core principles remain the same and what needs to be kind of reinvented or reevaluated as companies operate.
Yeah, I love that. You said that so well. And I was telling you before we started recording, I'm an Asana customer. So many people use the products that you've built. And then customer intelligence and VOC has really exploded. And you've had a front row seat, like literally building these products. Tell me what you think some of the gaps are in AI and customer experience today.
Oh, well, I think there's so many, and I think it's just so much uncertainty that there's probably a few types of folks. There's like people that are just like really resistant or afraid and kind of paralyzed, whether not saying that in a judgmental way, but just like there's too much to keep up with and it's moving so fast. I don't even know where to start.
Yeah.
Um, and then I think there's folks that are like, I don't know where this is going, but I'm just like grabbing the bull by the horns and like, taking it wherever I can. And I think for me, it is scary. There's so much uncertainty, but the only remedy that I found that's been helpful is just learning, just approaching it with curiosity, approaching it with kind of experimental mindset and seeing what works and what doesn't, and just like accelerating that, my own personal feedback loop of what's working. But I think we're onto something. So it's moving fast, but it's very promising what AI can bring to the world of customer experience and customer experience leaders.
So even on my podcast, Michael, a lot of practitioners and chief experience officers talk about the challenge of data, about unifying the data, about unifying customer signals, doing something with that. Let's talk about the platform that you're building. What does it do in really simple terms?
Yeah. In simple terms, what it does is it unifies all of your unstructured feedback. So that could be surveys, it could be support tickets, it could be sales transcripts and conversations, it could be social media tweets, and it unifies it around a knowledge graph so that it contextualizes who the user is, what account, what plan, the revenue data, and so that it makes sense of that feedback in a way that for you to start taking action on it. I think there's a stat is like 80% of CX analysts spend 80% of their time like organizing and aggregating data and only 20% actually analyzing it. And that's still not, you're still not done. You still then need to go and influence and like drive
Yeah.
kind of decisions as well, right? So I think that's kind of where we're headed, is really this world of real-time customer intelligence, where everyone in the organization has real-time on-demand access to what customers are saying and what that means in context of your business, so that you can make the next important decision, or even like the next small decision of like, what do I build next? What thing do I fix? What area do we need to focus on next quarter? So we're spending more time engaging and improving customer experiences and less time in the data.
I love that. I can remember even on this podcast, it was just such a novel idea that customer service and engineering would sit next to each other. I remember having an executive from Slack on the show, and she was talking about how engineering and service sit next to each other for the feedback loop and like how amazing that was. But what you're doing is you're saying, okay, let's just create a platform to make that easy. That obviously, customers, they don't feel like if they provide feedback that the company will do anything with it, that the company usually doesn't care, they're not listening. So, why do you think there's a reason that companies need to do a better job with actually doing something with all this feedback?
Yeah, I think in the past, I don't think it was because leaders didn't care about customers or didn't care about support. I hope not. Like I'm optimistic in that
Yes.
sense. That would just be bad business, right? I think in the past it just came at such a high trade-off of time. Like you hear these like really cool anecdotes and rituals of like, oh, this company, every leader spends a week doing support tickets, or
Yes.
this CEO does ride-alongs. And that's amazing, but not every company has that kind of style and that leadership approach. And do you really want to take your best engineers' time to go do tickets or go talk to customers? And like up until now, that's actually been the trade-off. And so, we're all busy individuals. We have our to-do list, we have our meetings. And when it comes down to it, you're going to prioritize what kind of is core to your job. And then as much friction gets in the way, even if you want to go do those things. So I think the reality is now is like AI is changing the dynamic and changing that equation of that trade-off. Like qualitative data to me has become more valuable than quantitative data. And so leaders now are rethinking, like you said, even the org chart. Like I know a lot of customers where they actually roll up into engineering now. They don't roll up into the go-to-market or the business side, because the technical leadership's like, no, I need access to that context like ASAP.
Yeah.
So I think it's shifting. I think the dynamic of like the data and what you can do with the data is changing the way people are thinking about the frontline teams. I call them the customer facing teams, and like their role in that feedback loop.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, it's not really sustainable for the engineering team to be doing, like, I can remember interviewing the CMO of DoorDash, where not all the employees wanted to be delivering food on DoorDash. So, like, why can't we
Yeah.
just make it easy using technology to connect all the links and solve all the gaps? If this is so simple, why hasn't this been done before?
I don't think it's that simple. I do think it's easier than it was before, but I think I've been pondering this question for a long time, and it's seeing Asana go through, when I joined it was 80 people, and then going public, and however it is now, and then joining Figma at 300 people, and now they're like public and 1,500 people. And the question I've always wondered is like, do organizations just hit some inevitable scale where they kind of evolve into a ordinary enterprise?
Mhm.
Because if you think about which companies truly are customer centric at scale, it's really hard to name
Yeah,
them off the top of your head.
I know.
You can name anecdotes. You can be like, oh, they do this, that's customer centric. But like really at scale,
Yeah.
this is the blueprint for how you do customer centricity at scale. And so I think it's been the leading answer to that, and part of it's your book, is it's through leadership and culture. It's a mindset. It's a belief. And I think like when I was at Figma, I saw that. I saw that top down. Leadership teams are engaging with customers and users on Twitter. There's community events. There's a whole team to build community. And so that's one way I'm seeing companies do it, which, when you're doing it through people and culture, it's not easy, but it is super powerful when you are able to do it. So now you bring in AI and it's like, okay, well, actually, now I think everyone can do it through technology. And that wasn't possible before. It was always like the giants who had the resources could do it, or the leaders who had conviction to set that tone and set that mindset could do it. But I do think more companies can do it now.
So, Michael, the technology is here. We're seeing it at companies like yours, but the organizational structure is not always set up to really bring these technologies to life and enable them to do what they're supposed to do. And I feel like a lot of companies now with AI, they're just sort of in no man's land, not to use a tennis reference, but what has to happen in the organizational structure to bring this technology to life to make it efficient and make it work for the company?
Yeah, I actually wrote a blog post about this and to kind of capture my experience seeing it at Asana and at Figma. And I think it comes down to kind of two dimensions. There's within an organization, there's how closely connected are you to customers, right? And then on the other dimension is like how influential are you in decision making? And when you're really small, everyone is like in this upper right quadrant where you're talking to customers every day. CEOs are like, on Zoom calls, fixing bugs, asking questions, like doing product testing. And then you get to like 100 people, 200 people, 1,000 people, and now your leadership team is drifted so far away from those customers. And now they're like, well, I have a research team, or I have a CX team, or I have a survey team. And so they can justify because they're like, I have to build the company. But what ends up happening then is those frontline folks who are really close to customers, they aren't in the same rooms and they aren't have the same level of influence. So now you have this paradox of the people that have the most intimate knowledge of customers don't have the most influence and decision making power, and vice versa. And so if you think about that, then it's like, well, how do we change that? How do we unify everyone to have the same access and the same connection to customers and to be able to do that at scale? And I think that's where the AI platforms come in. So instead of being like, oh, you need to sit here and talk to customers every day, it's like, oh, we can give you an automated feed in your inbox every morning of like highlight clips of what customers are saying or complaining about. And if you
Yeah.
want to follow up, like here's how you reach out and talk to them, right? Or you want to ask a chatbot what are the top complaints over the last year and what types of things are we doing to address them? Now you can get that answer and you can have a more pointed conversation that is in service of making decisions, not just like staring at dashboards and reports and like eyes glazing over.
I mean, this sounds so obvious, like, everyone should have this, and that's so helpful. I mean, just seems like it's really helpful to provide clarity to the executive team to say, like, just what you're saying, like, where are we not hitting the mark? And, like, I can remember so many times I read a lot too. There's a book called Winning Now, Winning Later with this former CEO of Honeywell, where he talked about he would just
Yeah.
ask 50 customers every month, like, "What are we doing well, and what can we be doing better?" But now, I mean, it's not very scalable for one executive to be running a company with 80,000 employees and then calling customers. So how does the AI work to make all of this a lot simpler?
Yeah. So one is just reducing the manual time processing, organizing, and getting that data and spending that time internalizing it and integrating it into your workflows and into action, right? Like how many insights die in dashboards and reports?
A lot.
Like how many CX leaders you go and you're like, oh, like, oh yeah, we do a monthly report. I go, how does it go? Oh, I don't know. We just get it done and then we're like moving on to the next month.
Right.
And it's like, okay, well, how do you know it's driving decisions or not? Or how do you know it's actually driving accountability for action? And so I think one is just shifting the equation of like spending more time understanding and less time analyzing and processing data. And then that unlocks all different types of ways to start thinking about like bringing those insights into action. Like, for example, we have a customer, they're Perplexity. They're like a small startup, but they are shipping new features and competing with like OpenAI and Anthropic. And they have a new browser, they have like a new model, and they have a quality monitor agent set up. So basically, we have a autonomous agent set up that reads every piece of feedback 24/7. And if it identifies an anomaly, it will alert the engineering team to investigate and like triage the fix.
Mhm.
So that means as a CX leader, you don't need to staff a team 24/7 just to play kind of that guardrail. And now with that extra headcount, what can you do with that? You can start innovating on your programs and start driving more influence and not just kind of playing risk mitigation as much.
That is
So I think there's like very practical ways, but then there's also like emerging ways that customers can start thinking about, how to scale this.
Does your product work better for a digitally native business or does it work across industries?
For now, we're starting with more digitally native businesses because they have much faster feedback loops
Yes.
or demand faster feedback loops, right? Like everyone is building so fast right now and shipping things so quickly, but every product leader you talk to is like, I don't know if we're building the right thing. I know my team is going as fast as they can, and the competition is as well. But the learning loop and the insight cycle hasn't kept up with that. And I think that's something that they're coming to us for of like, hey, how do we fix this? It's really interesting. We have a lot more product people coming to us about a CX platform than CX people coming to us.
Interesting. So, does the future of CX look different now with platforms like yours?
I think so. I think CX teams could then focus on, if they have all of the insights at their fingertips, what can they do to go solve root causes of broken promises with customers? And we're not just talking about like digital products, we're talking about like policies and education and marketing material, packaging, like the whole thing, all of the things that you could never prioritize before because you're like, I don't know, the C-suite needs that report. I gotta get this done first. So I think there's a lot of potential there. And you combine that with kind of like support agents and AI agents. Like I know it's scary, but I think if you keep pushing what your team can do, you'll start finding pockets of value that you didn't even think were possible before.
It's interesting. I think you're one of the first people I've had a conversation with where you are really a CX expert, an AI expert, and a tech expert, where your knowledge is deep around CX. Like you've been studying it for a really long time. I wonder, do we even need customer experience teams in the future?
I think they will be different. I don't think the traditional, like, we build surveys, we instrument them, we set them up, and we analyze them, and we build a dashboard, and hopefully people read them. I'm not saying that's like what the best CX leaders do, but I think that mental model has to shift. Um, and it needs to shift more towards integrating decisions and action and less about analysis and dashboards and reports. One thing that I'm experimenting with that's really interesting is thinking about customer experience as one very important data pool of organizational context.
Okay.
And so engineers there's this big rave of engineers talking about like prompt engineering to now context engineering. And what we're seeing is the context you put into an AI model or AI assistant or agent is probably the thing that produces the best output. So now imagine instead of saying like, oh, all of our support tickets here, like go take a look at some of them or some sample of them, or all of our surveys are here, like we'll get you a report in a month. Imagine having a process where you're like, these are the canonical insights that everyone in the company should know about, and you can access it in a chatbot. You can ask a Q&A, like you have an onboarding buddy, like you should not ever be blocked from asking a question about what or the most important customer needs are or insights are. Then you can have like a secondary brain is like, these are new learnings or these are things that we're exploring. Then you can have a whole data sources like, here's the unstructured data in a way that you can then pull from it for whatever use cases you need to. And so then everyone becomes a customer experience expert in that world because that context is shared across the whole organization versus siloed in different teams or different databases or different boards.
So, something, Michael, we haven't talked about is privacy. Companies like Apple, people say Apple is limited on innovation because they can't really dig through all the customer data because they have such
Yeah.
strict privacy, which you would think is a good thing. What about like healthcare where you have HIPAA compliance? And what are your thoughts on privacy, customer data, and the ability to innovate on that customer data?
Yeah. Absolutely critical. I think there's two types of kind of folks you talk to that's like, we use that as an excuse not to innovate.
Right.
And I don't blame them. Like I'm tired of trying to get something and getting my hand slapped or getting, rejected every time I want to like do something to personalize a customer experience or to bring insights in. And then there's folks that have a customer experience mindset on your security team or on your data team or on your legal team. And they're your partner to be like, yeah, that is a great idea. I think we can do it by redacting it at this point, scrubbing PI at this point. And we don't really need that detailed level of demographic data about the person. We just might need this like contextual understanding of the customer. And that will take you really far.
Mhm.
So I think it's a really important topic. And I think people need to partner with their security minded like partners and really bring them along in that journey and share that mindset to then innovate. But using it as like an excuse not to innovate is like a surefire way of falling behind.
Okay. You said having a customer experience person on the data team, the design team. I mean, it just feels like the whole business world would benefit from cross-pollinating all these different characters. So, customer
Yeah.
experience expert in the data, and then a data expert maybe in customer service, like back to the idea of organizational structure, like maybe things we
Yeah.
need to just set the teams up differently.
Yeah. I think we need to throw the whole org chart out
Okay.
and like question from first principles, like what is the right team for us to be building in two things. One, in this AI world, but also in context of like we're gonna have AI teammates.
Mhm.
So what does that org chart look like when, Blake, you have 7 agents for you to run your Sana teammates, and maybe they do all of these things for you. And like, where are you and where are the humans in that loop? And then how do we collaborate together? I think we're so early there, nobody really knows. But I think it's a very interesting time. We're hearing leaders talk about it, like, oh, we're AI native. We're interviewing AI first folks. But I don't think we've seen folks have a blueprint for what that org structure should look like.
What are the departments you think that won't exist, like, in the next 5 years? You couldn't have prepped for this question.
No, but I've been thinking about it because candidly, like I've been reluctant to hire folks because I'm like, I don't want to hire someone and then like the whole role and expectations change in a month.
Right.
I don't have a specific answer to what departments or functions, but I do think the concept of there will be teams that will be responsible for collecting, organizing, optimizing, and like improving context. So it could be customer context, it could be business context, it could be market context. And then there's a team of domain experts and evals is such a huge thing to guide and align the outputs of the models. So you're going to need domain experts to say like that's crap, that's a horrible customer experience, that's a terrible chat interface, that's a terrible outcome for a customer or user. And then it becomes a flywheel where those teams are working together on like both ends of the spectrum for in between the AI models.
Mhm. Yeah, and what I like about the podcast today, Michael, is you've used the word context, like, 7 times, and I just wonder in the past, did we just have no context? We were just like
It was siloed,
yeah,
right? Like if you think about the top performers in any organization, I I bet you they had lots of context. They understood the organization, they understood the customer, they understood the technical stack, they understood the domain. And so they had that context and good judgment and decision making to be able to be effective. And so in a world where everyone has shared context, then like how do you drive your organization forward? I think it's through still good judgment, good reasoning, good decision making. Um, but that will only be as good as your context is within your organization.
mhm. I love that. What are some of the ways that you personally use AI that people might not have thought of? Would you be willing to share that with us?
I've been up like this. This is bad, but I've been up like 2 in the morning experimenting, and the thing that I've been playing with is building a team of sub agents or a team of agents to go from like a research question to a full blown executive report.
Okay.
Right. So imagine a world where you're like, Blake, you have unlimited resources and time to answer a very strategic question about your company. Like, how do we grow market share in this specific product line? And what's blocking people from using it more? What's the competition doing that we're up against? And you would go and hire the world's best experts to go do that research for you. You would probably hire a market researcher, you would hire a customer experience leader, you would hire a domain expert, you would hire a report storyteller, you would hire a quant person, a qual person. And now you can do that. You can do that with Claude Code. You can set up a multi-agent infrastructure. You can feed it context. You can have it loop through and add agents to it. So last night I was like, build this report. Then I was like, add an agent to like read this report through a very skeptical lens and call out all of the flaws in caps. and then have another agent go through and research and investigate those gaps so that we have credibility and data to support the flaws in this report. Like I went from having 3 executive questions to 60 pages of research and insights using agents. Uh, and then now I can go through and say, is this good or bad? And like apply that human judgment.
Mm-hmm. Wow. 60 pages of a report written by an agent. Was it interesting? Did it keep your interest?
It was mind blowing.
Oh, really?
I shared it with our head of product, and he's like, "This is the most comprehensive insights report I've seen it in my career."
Wow.
And he's worked at Google and Notion, so I'm like, okay, that means something. And it goes down to that context, right? The agents had context about the business, the strategy, the earnings report, as well as the product roadmap. And then it had access to Interpret, which then has all of the taxonomy to organize all of that unstructured feedback in a way that is contextualized for these agents.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something you'd be able to do in the small scale with ChatGPT. Hey, here's like 10 attachments, generate something. But when you're talking about like corporate level data sets and that much context, you can't fit them into context windows. So you need to be able to have this type of like underlying architecture to organize your unstructured data in a way that is contextualized.
So I'm not clear. Did you use Interpret to do that?
Yeah. So
Mm,
we have an internal beta, but we have an agent that can go and basically query and retrieve data from our
I
platform.
see.
And so all of the agents then have access to that agent that can go and do that.
So awesome. I'm really
Yeah.
excited for you. This is so interesting.
Yeah. It's an interesting time. I would say as a CX leader, it's scary, but all of the leadership principles still apply. And now it's such an exciting time to kind of like learn and just bring that beginner's mindset and kind of shape the future of CX in this AI world.
Yeah, and I always say customer experience, there's so much dysfunction in the world. Like, let's just make people's lives easier and better. And
Yeah.
we haven't really been able to afford to do so, it feels like. We've tried. We've really tried with customer experience, but
Yeah.
companies don't want to invest in it. They don't have that culture. So now we're saying, okay, we have a more affordable way for you to do that, more efficient and easier.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's definitely a lot more approachable, but you gotta have your, leadership teams lean in and you gotta keep proving it out and finding the right fit for your organization.
And you work with Chipotle, is that correct?
Yeah, we work with Chipotle. Also I saw the CCO of Canva was on
Yeah.
your podcast. They are, oh my God, they are an impressive customer centric company. He didn't talk about this, but they have an entire close the loop team across their 200 and I think 40 million active users. They use Interpret to follow up with every piece of feedback, every feature request to every active user that they can close the loop with.
Mhm.
And they have that at the Melanie C level, like board level metric.
Mhm. That's amazing.
So like we're seeing companies do this at scale, and it's super exciting. And those folks are kind of paving the way of how you can do this at scale. I think it's really interesting because again, it no longer needs to be like a trade off.
Mhm. Love that. That's amazing. I would love to learn more about what your clients are doing, but we've reached almost the end of our time together and we have to get to know you a little bit and have fun and do rapid fire. Does that sound like something you want to do? That's
Yes,
your first
let's do
rapid
it.
fire question. All right. All right, Michael. What's the most important part of your morning routine?
Gratitude.
What do you
I found that, yeah. I just found like that simple, what am I grateful for? How do I want to show up today? The gratitude journal market's blown up. There's so many great gratitude journals, but that to me has been the most powerful way to pause and just do that reflection.
I love that. And what do you do to relax at the end of a hectic day? But I'm not sure your day ends since you're like built your coding at 2 a.m.
Yeah, well, now I have a 3-year-old, so my favorite part of the day is picking her up from school and spending time with her.
That's awesome.
She's super into K-pop Demon Hunters.
It's very trendy right now. It's everywhere.
Yeah,
All the Halloween
it's insane.
costumes will be K-pop. What
Yeah,
show are you currently watching on Netflix?
I'm kind of in a a lull right now with shows. K-pop Demon Hunter's been on repeat,
Nice.
so
Got it. Okay.
yeah.
What's your idea of perfect happiness?
Playing golf with my family. My wife plays. It's I think golf has a bad image, but it's outdoors. It forces you to be present. It's usually in a beautiful setting, and usually you have like a Bloody Mary in your hand.
Nice. It's the only sport that alcohol helps you perform better.
Yes.
What is one mental health strategy for managing hard days?
Uh, Gratitude and reflection. I think we are so wired for what we got to do next. We don't spend enough time giving ourselves grace and giving ourselves, you know, kudos for what we've accomplished. And um, I think that moment to pause and reflect is super powerful.
What is your favorite type of vacation?
Sunny and low decision making.
Mhm. Smart, like that. If you could have lunch with anyone dead or alive, who would it be?
I've been really into comedy lately, and I'm fascinated by how comedians go through their process. Uh, so my favorite comic is Dave Chappelle. He to me he's not even that funny anymore. But he's just like very profound. So I would love to have lunch with Dave Chappelle.
My
If you're
my
listening, Dave Chappelle.
friend, opens for him. My friend
Oh, really?
yeah, and, maybe that could happen. I If I go to one of his shows, I'll invite you. Yeah, I just my friend is
Thank
a
you.
I live in LA, I've been going to see him a lot, and he opens Rick Ingraham. So Rick
I'll check him out.
yeah, Rick is my friend, and maybe he'll invite us.
Shout out,
If
Rick.
you had to describe your outlook in one quick motto, what would it be?
Critically curious.
Okay, I like that. That was quick. Quick. It was a quick response and brief. I like it. Michael, this has been so interesting and fun. I feel like we have so much more to talk about, but our time is up. If people want to learn more about Interpret or get to know you, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, interpret.com is probably the best way. And then follow me on LinkedIn. I've had to become one of those LinkedIn influencers, unfortunately, but there are people out there that read it and find value in it. I know people dunk on it, but like I get messages of like, this was really helpful. Thank you for writing this. So check out LinkedIn and interpret.com with an E if you're listening. And I got to say, Blake, thank you so much for what you're doing to bring all of these amazing people together, this community, not just your thought leadership and your experience. And I think you're a little too modest about it on your pod. I think you could bring more of that into here as well. But just super grateful for you to bring all of that into context for us.
Thank you so much, Michael. That means so much to me. And just for that, I'm definitely going to take you to go meet Dave Chappelle once I tell my friend that I want to meet him.
Awesome.
Thanks. This
Love
has
it.
been really, really fun and really, really interesting. I'm so glad that you came on the show. And everybody, you have been tuning into the Modern Customer Podcast. Don't forget to check out Interpret, and thank you for watching. Please don't forget to like or subscribe and follow my social content on other platforms where I post content daily, including X, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, and more.